Okay. Yep.
This crowd rises to its feet. Vaccaro slammed it home. Garland left wing, free ball. Perfect! Garland one of the lane, lob to Mobley. Pow! And Allen blocked the shot at the rim. Pow! With the left hand and a foul.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo TV. Watch over 100 channels of live sports and TV for half the cost of cable. There's no contract and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com. The Cleveland Cavaliers went 3-1 on their road trip. Lots of fun. Not so fun. They lost a heartbreaker to the Philadelphia 76ers. And joining me today to discuss this is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm upset. Yeah, I mean, a really, Philly is a game that always gets our collective goats. They are a team that excels in getting to the free throw line. Don't love it as much when the play-by-play announcers are cheering for it. This guy's so good at tricking folks. It's the worst.
We kind of have a little bit of tough luck with these ESPN games because we went to Boston for all access Celtics, and unfortunately, apparently that still happens on the road too. We did not get the same treatment in Cleveland, but you know what? It was frustrating. It was tough. I'm going to try to keep it in a positive headspace. That's where I'm at, Carter. I don't know about you, but let's say just from an anxiety standpoint, I find the stresses of day-to-day life get me more than an absolute crisis. When things go really sideways, I usually am what can I control? What are the next steps forward? And I actually felt that there was quite a bit of good in this game, that at least when we're looking at what the Cavs could control. But before we get into the game itself, we should probably mention that it was Bowtie Night at Romo Fijo. Supporting NF Forward. If you guys want to donate or find out more about that, you can go to nba.com/Cavaliers/bowtie. Obviously, a terrible illness that's affected Nick Gilbert and is near and dear, a cause that's near and dear to the hearts of us and Cavs fans everywhere. So make sure that you guys are checking that out and supporting it. Carter, before I awkwardly shift to basketball, do you have anything to add there?
No, obviously, just glad that the Cavs are, going so hard on supporting this, and really hope that we can work towards a cure here.
Absolutely. So switching
back to basketball.
Yeah, back to basketball. It was honestly, considering the circumstances, down Jared Allen, obviously no Ricky Rubio in this game, not playing back-to-backs, the final back-to-back of the year, in fact, for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we got rest from here on out. I thought the Cavs came out with a very inspired effort on the defensive end of the floor. And most of all, I feel like they showed a lot of toughness throughout this game. Obviously, it got a little out of hand towards the end of the game, but there were many times in this game that I feel like earlier season versions of the Cavs would have really kind of let this get away from them. Even when the Sixers made the run in the third quarter, I thought the Cavs actually showed a fair bit of resilience. The guards were pressing far too much during that time. But then Darius Garland kind of settled himself down. He took it right at Joel Embiid and had some good finishes on the inside, hit that big three. I was impressed by the Cavs' resilience in this one.
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, I'm gonna call you out a little bit because I shared your opinion pregame that I think both of us were thinking, Embiid really likes to go at these kind of premier matchups. Maybe with no Jarrett, he'll maybe we actually kind of like get a B plus effort instead of an A plus effort. Whoops. Embiid, and as much as I want to complain about the grifting stuff, and boy, was the first quarter full of it. I mean, that pirouetting over the back shoulder thing that apparently there was enough contact on Evan Mobley there. Insufficient on the charge call, but there it was enough, and that's fair. But from after some early grift work, I mean, he just went to work. Didn't miss a contested jumper all game. And some of those Mobley contests were awesome, as good as you'll find. Was bowling through splitting doubles as a post player just by being strong as hell. He was awesome, and I thought the Cavs did everything they could to make his life hard. Like, they were not, even when they did hard double, they were not giving him easy passing reads to spray out. Like, there was a lot of Sixers Twitter was kind of talking about the rest of the team being asleep at the wheel in that first half. I don't really agree. I think the Cavs just did a nice job executing their game plan. I thought especially in that second quarter, the Cavs played about as inspired of half-court defense as you'll find. And I thought they played a great game here. And, down Jarrett, and with Embiid playing as well as he did, it's a near impossible outcome, especially the way Embiid was protecting the rim. My God. Just, really made it hard on Darius to have an efficient night. Isaac, was stuffed at the rim a couple times as well. But like, with all that said, I thought the Cavs did fight super duper hard. I do think Philly is the better team right now, especially the way they're playing right now. You kind of made the case they were the third best team in the league on our last pod, and man, it's hard to not feel that way when you see them hit every single timely three. And like, yeah, you can pick nits with Jetty over helping on a few of those fourth quarter possessions, but man, they just lit the Nets on fire in the fourth quarter. And the Cavs, who were generating good looks for players who hit good looks, just didn't hit their threes, didn't hit shots. And so when you combine that with the fact that you were down 3 and fouled out their best player, and you did. I mean, JB said it in postgame as clear, like that was a charge. I thought JB's postgame was actually super measured, super reasonable. He didn't go super aggro.
Van Vliet.
Yeah, he didn't go full Van Vliet on him. I thought he was, very fair and just saying, hey, that was a charge. I don't care what you tell me, that was a charge. Because it was. It just was. And, you gotta, I guess the thing you always got to remember is that these guys are human. And like the pressure of making that call and the impact of making a call, like, I mean, not to go, like, it's funny. I've never thought I was going to make any defense of a referee during this podcast.
I was not expecting this either. I mean, if we're exposing personal messages, Carter, with my Joel Embiid take, you sounded like Aisha.
Well, what I'll say is, we spend so much time telling refs you can't make that call in that moment. You can't make that call in that moment, and they got a chance to not make that call in that moment, and they took it. Yeah. I thought it was absolutely horrible. I was so disappointed, so frustrated, because that is just like, again, like, you can't call some of the ticky-tack stuff that the Sixers pull and then punish Evan Mobley for embellishing a little contact. After he's been run through by a freight train all game. But I guess you just have to overcome it. But like, that's a hard one to overcome when you're down 3 with momentum, and then you're actually starting to fight back. The game is starting to flow. Donnie's getting to the rim, and then they stop the game to add 2 points back onto the scoreboard. It's like just a perfect storm of rhythm and vibe killing stuff, and it just sucked. It was a terrible way to lose the game. It's not the only reason they lost, but boy, is it a major one.
Yeah, it's back-to-back seasons now where we've had points added to the other team when the ball is not in action. Amazingly, I think their human argument holds a little more weight when you're talking about live calls. Where
to be clear,
they actually made the right call in the moment.
Well, let me be very clear. That was actually not that nice of a thing to say. That was me saying, I guess you can mess up even the most obvious charge call, which I think it really was. And the emotions of the game can get to you even in a review. You know, I don't expect an apology in the last 2-minute report. I just don't. You know, they almost never do that when things hit the
especially because it was outside of the last 2 minutes.
Well, I guess you're right. Either way, you know, you're not going to see any commentary. I mean, hit the review center. There's just, you know, that stuff's never going to get quote unquote corrected. But it stunk. It was a sucky way for a game to end, but ultimately, like you just kind of have to let it ride.
Yeah, and you got to hope that kind of as the Cavs become more established and Mobley, earns more and more of a reputation, that you'll start getting more favorable calls and some of those 50-50 calls start going your way. I mean, my whole thing with Joel Embiid is like, he's probably like, he's got a legitimate chance to win the MVP. I think with the way that
he might now.
Yeah, with the way Denver's fallen off, I can see it, right? So, and he draws enough fouls that are like legitimate. Like a lot of the times when he gets to the line, it's him just being crafty. There's contact there. It's just that I'm always surprised that you get this many 50-50 calls kind of lopped onto it, because I'm so used to like the LeBron experience, right? Where he is going to like shoot 7-8 free throws in a game, but there's just so much contact, right? That it's the Shaq treatment, right? That guys are allowed to foul you no matter what. Whereas with Joel Embiid, you can pirouette, not really have contact, be straight up, and he's still going to the line. So that's the part that always gets to me. But you know what? It was funny because I thought you mentioned early on his defense and blocking those two Isaac Okoro dunk attempts. And honestly, I liked Isaac's minutes in this game. Like I thought he was being assertive. Some of the stuff went a little bit sideways.
I loved Isaac's minutes.
The fact that he got those offensive rebounds, going right at Joel Embiid and challenging him, even after he got blocked twice, he went the third time and got to the free throw line, right? Like I like that. I like that he maintained his aggressiveness, and ultimately, I think JB sticking with Jetty down the stretch was the right call, because they did need to have some offense. They needed to have spacing. The Sixers were trapping so aggressively, and without Jared Allen to kind of free you up, I don't think Evan Mobley's at that level of a screener, even though he's improved. But without that to free you up, you need to have as much spacing on the floor as possible. So I did like going to Jetty. It's just unfortunate that he went 3 of 10.
Yeah, I mean, and just true to Jetty form, like Jetty giveth and Jetty taketh away. Like when he's hitting, he looks like, it's like, why would they ever not play this guy 20 minutes a game? And then, even in a game where I thought he played quite well, 30 minutes, 15 points, like against a great defensive team, that's awesome. But like those misses when the jumper's not on, the mechanics are just out of whack. I mean, the hitch on that last 3 was just absolutely not good. And he had some hideous misses.
And then you have the plays like losing George Niang at the end of the third quarter for a wide open corner 3. And honestly, I thought the Cavs most of the night did an okay job defending the 3-point line, but that opening stretch of the fourth quarter, they just lost too many shooters. Like they lost they were lucky that PJ Tucker missed one of them. Unfortunately, Jetty and Levert got their wires crossed and kind of gave the ball back to Philly in that situation. But they gave up way too many open threes in those times, sagging off shooters or leaving guys with just a little bit too much room off ball. And the unfortunate thing is even the contested ones went in at that point, right? And that's one of those things where you let guys get comfortable, especially in a game where you haven't given them a lot of breathing room. Those wide open looks end up feeling like a breath of fresh air, right? Like these guys finally get a good, clean catch and shoot look wide open, and they're going to find a little bit of a rhythm. But I'm not surprised. I mean, one of the things when you're playing 3 games in 4 nights and you travel before the game, you kind of expect you to have tired legs in the fourth quarter and miss some open looks. I was happy that they continued to generate pretty good open looks against a very aggressive Philly defense. And you do have to give Philly credit as well. I thought the blitzing and the trapping that they were doing on the Cavs guards gave them a lot of issues at times, and their length is definitely something that they use to their advantage very well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Philly played a really good game. I mean, they make the Cavs work again. Embiid just being at the core of that, and being able to be a second effort defender. You talked about his blocks on Okoro. I thought his block on Mobley was the most impressive defensive play of the entire game for either team. I mean, Jetty had completely sucked him in, took all of his attention. He had not taken one step towards Jetty. He was guarding Jetty, and as soon as Mobley's able to rise, and it was, again, not a slow gather. Like, Mobley caught the ball and immediately went up, and somehow Embiid got there. Man, they make you work. They are a really, really good team. With size, and then but I did like the Cavs' execution down the stretch. I saw someone tweet that that the Sixers seem so organized on offense in the fourth quarter, and the Cavs just seem like they're kind of just getting putting up shots. I thought the Cavs generated, I mean, like almost as often as the Sixers generated good looks. Garland and Donnie couldn't hit the broadside of a barn tonight. You look at this game, the fact that they only lost by 9 with those guys combining for 36 points on 15 of 36 shooting, 2 of 14 from 3, and only 5 combined free throw attempts. Like, it was, it's just an uphill battle in that spot. But I liked Jetty's minutes. I thought, again, the variance. I love that he and Levert got 23-point attempts up.
Yeah,
that was really, really important. And I mean, we should probably talk about Levert too, who
we'll
legitimately
get
kept
them
us
a
in the
little
game
later for sure.
Yeah.
But the thing that I really like too is sticking with Jetty in this, because I think you and I, if we're talking about, like, let's put ourselves in the shoes that if we were game planning a series or previewing a series against Philadelphia, I think I would have serious concerns about how Jetty would hold up on the defensive end of the court. But one of the things that we talked about on the last podcast was kind of experimenting with these bench guys, like trying to get them to find a rhythm, trying to get these guys in a groove. And I think, just letting them play through some mistakes, putting them in these situations, because you're not going to have a lot of these situations throughout the remainder of the regular season. Let's see if these guys can rise to the occasion, if they can make the adjustments in game, bounce back from mistakes. And I thought, like, for the most part, this was probably one of the more productive bench games that we've had in a while, right? Like, Jetty hitting those threes. Karis LeVert was fantastic. Lamar, even though he wasn't coming in off the bench, I liked the Lamar Stevens minutes that they gave him. And even Diakite, I like the Diakite minutes, man. I've always found him to be productive when he's on the court.
Yeah, I thought Diakite, I was surprised to see him get out there, though. I mean, it makes sense. He was good in the first game against Philly too, right? Yeah, I kind of thought he deserved it, but I kind of just didn't expect to see him. So his 9 minutes were good.
Nor did Doris Burke. I don't think that came up in the prep because she was not sure how to pronounce his name.
No. Lamar only playing 12 minutes I thought was a little surprising. But I think just at a certain point you just go super small. And you just kind of run with Osman and Levert. I think that's the other reason Okoro didn't get a ton of minutes despite having some good run. It's just, again, I keep saying this, but when you're looking at the rotational stuff, this is a zero-sum game. If one player gets a ton of minutes, other players will get less. Osman and Levert combined for 66 minutes tonight. I thought they deserved them. And, ultimately you're going to have some casualties along the way, especially with Donnie playing 40, Mobley playing 39, and Garland playing 36. So, I thought the rotations were fine in this game. And
also you have to factor in that dry spell that the Cavs had in the third quarter, right? Like, they just missed some pretty decent looks. Other times I thought both Garland and Mitchell were kind of culpable for pressing during that stretch. I don't
agree. I loved Garland's game. Like, I really did. I just thought he didn't make shots.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a concern. He was holding No, my concern is, he was holding his hand a whole lot in that Charlotte game. It got swatted down on a few times. Donovan, he was holding his hand after missing the Charlotte game, trying to manage that or middle finger injury, I should say. I guess the plus side is they only play once in the next 4 days. That's kind of a nice welcome break, and there aren't any back-to-backs from here on out. So hopefully these guys can get right. But I thought at times Garland was pressing just a little bit too much, but for the most part, I don't think it was an egregiously bad process game, right?
I think if Darius is open and he takes a three, I am never going to say sorry.
Those I agree with. Those I definitely agree with. But I think there was a few too many times where I think there was once where he drove under the basket, left his feet and threw it to the corner, which got picked off. Just stuff like that I think could have been cleaned up. And again, when you're playing a team as good as Philadelphia, the defense is going to force you to make mistakes, right? They're going to put you in these tough compromising positions, and you can't expect perfect execution there. But if we're going to pick nits and if we're going to look at the small margins, that's the kind of stuff that you hope you can clean up some of it, right? Because ultimately, the way the Cavs played against Philadelphia in this game actually does make me feel better about how they'll look in the playoffs, because Philly was employing a lot of the strategies that you would expect to see against the Cavs in the playoffs. The way they were playing off on Okoro, and Okoro rose up and he took threes. He made the threes. He's been shooting it a whole lot better lately. He got after it, broke up some passes, got offensive rebounds. That's the kind of stuff Okoro is going to need to do to be a rotation player in the playoffs. Even if it means, like tonight, he only plays 24 minutes, he can give you an impactful 24 minutes. Karis Levert being a whole lot more assertive lately. The playmaking has been there. If there's one thing I can victory lap on, Carter, it's my offseason take that Levert's playmaking is underrated, and he's a very good third guard for that. And
he's really been benefiting from these small ball lineups.
Yeah, with spacing around him, right? And that's what we actually thought there was going to be more of, right? We thought, okay, Kevin Love's healthy, Dean Wade coming in off the second unit, Jetty Osman, and then you're playing with one of Mobley and Allen. All of a sudden you can run a spread pick and roll, right? You're going to have that space to operate, and that's going to maximize all of Karis Levert's strengths. That just hasn't been the case because Dean Wade got hurt, and man, even in that Charlotte game, we haven't talked about that game a whole lot, but it did not look good. There looks like there's a hitch in his shot, and even though he's moving around well, that shoulder just doesn't look right to me, and it's unfortunate because I've said it before. I feel good about him long term. I think maybe after an offseason he'll bounce back, but in terms of kind of confidence in him contributing this season, it just doesn't look like he's right.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But to your point about this game kind of making you feel a lot better about this team in the postseason, I just think the most encouraging number here is 41, which is 41 3-point attempts for the team. They shot 14 of 41. They, 34%, not great. Obviously, Darius and Donnie just couldn't hit broadside of a barn. And also, you got a little bit better than you would expect out of Lamar and Isaac, going 4 of 6. But I think that's the kind of number I wanted to see is okay, so Dean isn't playable for you right now. That stinks. No one likes that. But are you going to play guys that will take enough threes to not get absolutely run off the floor from a math problem perspective? And I don't think they did today. Philly shot the cover off the ball, but they took 5 less threes. The Cavs taking 5 more threes than a Daryl Morey team is not something I had on my bingo card.
Now, that would be the one thing that it would actually push me over the edge, and I'm very glad. But a Daryl Morey tweet, the way that he victory laps around the way that his guys are called, that would probably make this so that I would not be able to have a productive podcast. That would be a bridge too far for me, my friend.
Yeah. Gosh. I almost
set you off again.
I got annoyed by proxy about a thing that didn't even happen. But yeah, so I liked the style of ball they played. Justin, my favorite, speaking of the way they were trapping Darius, God, I loved his hit-ahead passes to Mobley. Those were high degree of difficulty passes because they weren't quite slips. They were kind of a mix between a They were definitely like a pick and roll, with a little slip within that, but like he was hitting with a really huge target in Embiid to try to avoid. He was getting the ball to Mobley with advantage on the short roll, and I thought the Cavs were generating good looks against that. And I also, when they stuck Embiid on Okoro, I saw some folks talking about that being some great decision. Again, every time Okoro screened for Garland, when Embiid was on him, DG, if he chose to, could walk into a pull-up three. There were a few plays where he did not attack Embiid super well, but that's user error to me. That's not schematic. So like, again, I feel like against a big, smart team that was game planning out against the Cavs' weaknesses in this one, they showed enough for me.
Yep. And I mean, Philly had 2 days rest coming into this, right? Like you could tell they had specific game plans because they had the time off to play against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I thought they rose to the moment, man. Like I'm happy with this. We're at the point where you can't really take a moral victory in any of these games, but like at the same time, like you can only control what you can control. We all kind of saw what that game was. There was a lot of things that didn't go their way.
Justin, someone in the chat, Devious 100D, just said, should have attacked Embiid more. He was biting on Mobley's head fakes and fouling. Devious, they fouled him out. They did it.
He probably fouled out before then. Let's be honest.
Come on. They did pretty good.
They did a pretty good job of that. I wish you could join us on this call because that's a great comment. But thank you so much for the commentary. Oh man, that made me laugh. I like that. That was good. That was almost as good as the support we received from Zoom. Support for this podcast and the following message comes from Zoom. 500,000 businesses connect using Zoom, a single platform for phone, chat, workspaces, events, apps, and video. Zoom enables real-time collaboration for teams around the globe. Zoom, how the world connects. Carter, let's talk a little bit about Mobley at the 5, because I thought Mobley actually did pretty well against Joel Embiid in this one. Especially, you get called for that foul 16 seconds into the game. You get that pirouette that Embiid got to the line for. But despite that, he was still aggressive and assertive in his defense on Embiid. Like, he wasn't just kind of laying off him. And I think Doris Burke said that he was shooting much poorer with Mobley on the court versus off. I don't have those numbers available to me, but it definitely felt like Joel Embiid did the majority of his work without Mobley on the court, and nobody's ever going to stop Joel Embiid. He's in the MVP conversation for a reason, but I thought Mobley did about as good of a job as you can expect, especially when you look at just the size disadvantage between the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, Embiid just hit every pull-up jumper, and I before the last game against Philly, I looked at their game in November when Jarrett wasn't available, which is crazy that Jarrett wasn't available 2 out of our 3 games against Philly. That sucks.
I'm going to say, is it 4 out of the last 7 against Philly? Because we played Philly.
They put Lowry on him last year.
Man, they did. Last year we had those 3 games against Philly that all came in the back half of the season. I think Embiid missed all of those games. I think two of the losses.
We definitely played them. They definitely played against Embiid with Markkanen on him, because we started that game going like, oh man, he's going to be food. But we actually had it actually kind of opened them up to double. Really smartly. Anyway, getting super distracted from my point.
I think the 2 games in Cleveland also were last 2-minute apology games, but proceed.
Jesus. I think that, but when I watched that tape from November, a lot of Embiid's misses were these pull-ups against Mobley, where Mobley closed the gap way closer than Embiid would have expected. And he shorted a lot of his jumpers. And I thought Mobley was as good, if not better, attacking Embiid's face-up game. And he just hit ridiculous shots, and that's, this is that's part of the MVP, case. You're not some nights, no matter what you do, you're not going to slow a guy down. I thought forcing the guy into 6 turnovers and 5 fouls was as good as you're going to ask. I thought Mobley's playmaking was really, really good. You'd like the free throws. You got a note, only 3 of 7. And a couple of those were timely misses again. But 5 assists to 1 turnover and only 2 fouls will guard Joel Embiid, who had 10 free throws. You're not going to ask for more, especially when at least one of those fouls was complete non-contact. It's one of those, like, you really gotta watch, guys. You really gotta watch these games when you are talking about how players are guarding stars in the modern NBA. Because this happened in the last Philly game, it was one of the earlier Denver games where I was like, man, Jarrett is defending the hell out of Jokic, and people are like, oh, look at his box score. He's not doing anything. I'm like, that's just what Jokic does, bro. Like, you got to watch. You got to watch and see how hard they're working and how far out of the way they're having to go to get to their numbers.
I mean, Kawhi Leonard won a finals MVP holding LeBron to like 50% shooting from the floor and 50% shooting from 3, right? Like, over 30 points per game. Like, these stars are going to get those numbers, but it's about, do you suppress attempts? Do you can make them work for all of it? Does it come within the flow of the offense, or does Joel Embiid really kind of have to go to work and then create a step back jumper for himself, right? Like, I thought he did a good job, and I think the Cavs have actually done a good job on Embiid this season overall. Like, even the blowout in Philly, he shot like 40% from the floor. I thought Jared really made him work in those games, and honestly, like, the effort that they gave against Philadelphia without Jared Allen, it's encouraging, because we always talk about Jared Allen for his impact on the defensive end, but he impacts the offensive end as well, right? Like, he makes life for Darius and Donnie a whole hell of a lot easier. He's makes life for Karras easier as well, right? And there were a lot of times where, as much as Mobley's improved as a screen setter, it's just a different beast when you're doing it with Jarrett, and when you're able to get into some of those double drag actions that the Cavs love to get into, right? And Jarrett's so good at the horn sets that you run with Garland and Mitchell. Like, there's just a whole, like, section of the playbook that you're not able to really get to without Jared Allen. But for the Cavs to play this well, and for the role guys to start to find a groove, like Ricky playing great against Charlotte, like, that's really encouraging to me. I just think if this is the type of game that you get from the supporting cast, I feel very confident about the Cavs' chances, especially in the first round of the playoffs, because this is the type of game, right? Like, if Karras and Okoro are playing like this, you can have 24 minutes of Okoro, and it's probably only going to be 24, because the Cavs' best lineup this season is the core 4 with Karras, Levert. And if Levert's playing like this and you're able to kind of get sustained offense for 48 minutes, you should be fine in the first round, assuming that everybody is healthy and the stars are playing as well as you'd expect them to.
Boy, has Karras been good these last 4 games. I legitimately was starting to wonder, like, hey, are we gonna see that him be helpful again this year? Like, really, really helpful, not just like, because like I remember we talked about it like at some point last month where I was like, I don't want to just be like, oh, Karras, you did a nice job, you had 7 points and 6 assists, but like, you played smart. Like, no, like, he's better than that. And has been over the course of his career. And like, while like I do want to applaud him doing the little things, like, he's also being paid to do the big things, get buckets. And like, so seeing him rattle off this 4-game stretch of 16, 15, 22, and 24 with 4, 4, 7, and 6 assists on, only 6 turnovers over that stretch, like, that is the good stuff, man. Like, and like, I think when we're going to kind of evaluate this supporting cast in the postseason, like, the one thing that will leave me really frustrated no matter how the playoffs go is if the supporting cast is so unable to help that it makes it hard for us to even evaluate the core guys and what they need to get better at. Like, they have to hit a certain bar, and it's not that high of a bar. Now, I would say tonight's performance far exceeded the bar. I thought the bench carried our starting backcourt today. Where I don't think Darius or Donnie had a good game. So like, I don't think they have to do this off the bench to be helpful and to do what the Cavs need. But like they had like knowing that Karras can run off a 3-4 game stretch like this still at this point of the year is like really, really important for this team, because like they might need him to do this at least once in the first round, you know?
You might have an off game from the guards in a playoff game, right?
And you just don't want that to be an instant loss.
Yeah, you might be able to win it because of your defense. You might be able to win it if Karras goes off, right? Like the kind of when you look at these microwave guys that successful playoff teams have had, whether it's Jordan Poole, whether it's J.R. Smith for us, Jason Terry, if you want to go back, it's the confidence to go out there and take the shots, right? And Karras, he does make the right plays, right? Like he's going to give effort on the defensive end. He's going to get you some steals. He's going to get rebounds. The playmaking is probably his most consistent trait this year, but he can't pass up opportunities. Not with the spacing that the Cavs have, right? Like if you have a decent enough look at three, you need to take it. No matter who you are on this team, you need to take it to keep the defense honest. And when Karras is assertive and like I don't need him driving into 6 defenders and shooting up like Hail Mary shots or anything like that. But like be confident in who you are, take your shots, and like he's performing more like you'd expect, right? Like Caris LeVert has been a productive player many times in his career, and the shooting numbers were just below the career averages. And so for him to find a bit of a groove, to find confidence, and most importantly, to find confidence when the other guards are out there, right? Like he's had several good games with Darius and Donovan both on the court. Like that's a great sign. He's had good games with both of them and Ricky in the lineup. Like those were things that we hadn't really seen to this point. So starting to build positive momentum with Caris LeVert is going to make a really big difference. And like I said, the odds are in the playoffs, if he's playing like this, you're going to be closing with Caris LeVert.
Yeah. Yeah, you are. I mean, I do want JB to give Isaac a chance to make some of those big shots down the stretch. I think he's proven that he's not afraid of them. Mm-hmm. But like, when Karras is playing like this, he's earned the minutes, he's earned the run. And I thought, that
you want it to be a tough decision for that reason, not because I don't know who I can go to in this spot.
Yeah. And I'm going to maintain that anxiety till the end, till we hit go time in the postseason.
This team is really fun. I really care about this team. Therefore, I'm going to have crazy anxiety for the next couple months.
Oh, for sure. And by the way, it's March 15th, Justin. 1 month from now, playoff basketball is going to be happening. 10
games. We should also probably mention that the Cavs have matched their win total from last year.
Yes, they have. And that feels really, really good. Last year felt like such a magical run, and the fact that they did it with 11 games left and have a chance and really should get to 50 wins is really, really exciting. I was really proud of their effort tonight. We talk so often about when this team goes and plays 3 games in 4 nights and lays an egg, and we point to, hey, it's the 3rd game in 4 nights. That's an impossible spot. So 3rd game in 4 nights after a 4-game road trip with Philly coming in rested and hot. Like the fact that it was as close as it was, is something of a blessing. They were home dogs tonight for a reason. Vegas knows that these spots are really, really hard to win in. And I did think they competed really, really well.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think there's one way that the Cavs can try to get revenge for what this game was, and that's beating the hell out of Brooklyn. Because if you beat the hell out of Brooklyn, that gives Miami a better chance to get 6, and Philly versus Miami is going to be a whole lot more interesting than Philly versus Brooklyn. I would like to see Miami and Philly. I would like to see Miami beat the hell out of Philly. I want to see those fan bases go at each other. Let's take care of business, because right now, looking at it, as I said, Cavs only play once in their next 4 days. They play Washington on Friday. You have some time off. You play Brooklyn twice. You play Houston twice. If the Cavs are playing their brand of basketball, if they're playing good basketball, that can be a 4-game winning streak. That is a spot where you can bury the Knicks. You can basically clinch the 4 seed. And right now you're 2.5 games up on the Knicks. You're in a very good position to get this. And this next week is going to be very important for that. Taking care of business, separating yourself from Brooklyn, getting the tiebreaker over Brooklyn if you sweep them, and beating teams that you should beat is exactly what we should expect from the Cavs. And if you take care of business there and you win all of those games, you're up to 48 wins, and getting to 50 with 6 games left seems like an easy task.
Yeah, again, I really think that the Cavs will be favored in every game for the remainder of the season. And I hope that they, take advantage of that and show.
I don't think they will be in the Atlanta game.
I think they will be. I just have a feeling. I think even I've had a hard time adjusting to how good every the Cavs get good lines. They have respect from the gambling public at this point, and as such, they're favored or the line's a lot closer in games that I wouldn't otherwise expect it to be. Plus Atlanta is just miserable, man. Did you see their game last night?
I did not.
Or maybe it was 2 nights ago when they just completely laid an egg. Gosh, what game was that? Oh, against the T-Wolves. Oh, my goodness. Gave up 136 at home. While Trey scored 41, and it was just whatever. Not even a competitive game at home again against a not that good Minnesota team. Point is, they have a chance to continue to learn about themselves. As important as this game felt, just because man, if they won, that would have felt so good. Coming off that road trip, and
would have kept the hopes of 3 alive, right?
Yeah, I had given up. I had given up on that one anyway.
Yeah.
But
can write it off now.
Omega dead now. But 4 seed it is, as long as they don't fumble the bag. And home court in the first round was not something. Again, we have to remember how much we move the goalposts over the course of the season, and sometimes rightfully so. This team is better than we thought they were going to be, and they've
earned elevated expectations.
Yes. But with that said, most teams were is this team for sure out of the play-in? A lot of people felt that way. Because the East is so good. So the fact that they are, a no doubt they absolutely should have home court advantage on the first round. With this team being as good as they are at Romo Fijo, that is an important thing.
Mm-hmm. This might seem like a weird time to take a bit of a victory lap because we're coming off a loss to the Sixers. But I did say it in January, man. If you can't handle us at our January, you don't deserve us in our March. And people, I said that not for a single day would they fall to 6. And people were very worried about the play-in. Every team has a bad month. Most teams' bad month don't look like just alternating wins and losses and playing 500 basketball. Even that, dealing with the injuries that they had, because the biggest difference between last year and this year is our injuries were a lot more kind of front-loaded and spread out evenly throughout the year rather than all at the end of the season. But Cavs have had the second most player games missed, man, and we've matched our win total from last season with 10 games left. I think that is a significant accomplishment. You look at where they are in terms of net rating. Last year, they were 12th in net rating. This year, they're first. This is a much better Eastern Conference. This team has shown real growth, and I'm very excited about what this can be. Hopefully, Jared Allen will be back soon. Another advantage of only playing once in the next 4 days is that gives him time to get better, and hopefully he's here for the stretch run. So we'll keep our fingers crossed there. And we'll be we won't be previewing the Washington game, but we'll be previewing the Brooklyn home and home next week. So looking forward to that.
Put the whole team on rec spec, man. Come on.
Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. We really appreciate you guys staying up with us. If you want to subscribe, click notification bell. It really does help us, helps the reach, helps the YouTube algorithms and all that good stuff. If you want to support the podcast, you can leave us a rating, your review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of the Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of that review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.